Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly. This is the Let's Run podcast. Your UNLV football team went on the road in Corvallis, Oregon, and defeated the Oregon State Beavers. The final score of the game was, I'm actually not sure what the final score of the game was. We won by 8. 38 to, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I get this score of the game right. So UNLV walks out of Corvallis 33-25. A very good victory on the road against not a great Oregon State team, but certainly a great Oregon State program that's going through some tough times. Reese's Pieces stadium victory. Thank you, Mr. Masked Rebel. Everybody make sure you follow the Masked Rebel. He is one of the OGs. I always shout him out because he's one of my favorite people on this app. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section, what you thought about the game. We're going to break it down for you right now. So I actually missed the first half of this game. I was on the strip with my wife, and I saw Donnie Osmond. I didn't realize that she got us the tickets. It was kind of a surprise. So I did not see our very bad first half. It seemed like the offense was struggling. I don't think the offense had a very good night. Honestly, I thought that Hodge there were some issues with receivers. UNLV was trying to run kind of those slam dunk long distance plays. Sorry, I just want to make sure that my mic is working here. UNLV was, we had some very deep long throws that didn't seem like they were connecting very well. Ultimately it was the UNLV defense that really kind of took control. I thought that the defense, up until the last minute, played a very good game. Jet Elag, one of our safeties, had a late hit out of bounds on an Oregon State drive that really made things a lot harder than they had to be. I didn't think Hodge Malik Williams played a great game. Hodge's stats, obviously, he was fine. Hodge played well enough to win, but he threw a very, very, very poor interception at the end of the game. 15 of 27, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Probably Hodge's worst game as a starter since he has taken over the job from Matthew Sluka. But what I'll say about that is that it's very difficult to win on the road. College football is a tough place. You saw number 1 Texas get absolutely decimated by Georgia today. You saw Alabama lose to Tennessee. You saw Michigan lose to Illinois. And just in the Mountain West, you saw, this Oregon State team lost to Fresno State last week. So you never want to take for granted road victories. This was a game before the season that basically everybody had marked down as a loss. Everybody thought that UNLV was going to lose to this Oregon State team. And so to come on the road and get a victory is something that I'm very happy with. I thought that the officiating was kind of rough the whole game. I'm sure that Oregon State fans are upset about that last play. I honestly, I think they could have thrown a flag there, but I also thought that there was a false start on the previous play and the game should have been over. But who really knows? It didn't really feel like the officials had a good hand on this game. I don't think they did a very good job. I think both teams can have a lot to complain about. UNLV wins and covers, which is a very nice thing after our victory over Utah State last week, which we did not cover. So very grateful that UNLV was able to cover in this game. But, I thought that it was not our best performance. There's a lot to improve on. There's a lot to clean up before the biggest game, maybe in program history next week at home against the Boise State Broncos. So a lot to clean up, especially on the offensive side. I thought sometimes our play calling was a little rough. I saw Master Rebel talking about this, but I don't feel like we're using Kaleo Balangai enough, our tight end. I feel like, and please let me know in the comments if you guys have any thoughts about this. But I don't think that Balangai, I don't think our offense is using the tight end or the slot receiver enough. We kind of went away from Jacob DeJesus towards the end of the game, which I thought was a mistake. Hodge, again, doesn't seem to. If I have one criticism of Hodge, it's that when he's getting rushed, when the other team's bringing heat, Hodge kind of tends to struggle, either with taking bad sacks or, in this case, throwing a pick that set up Oregon State in very good field position. Hodge needed to throw that ball out of bounds, and let us punt to pin Oregon State on the other side of the field. If Oregon State would have had to have started that drive at the 10-yard line or the 5-yard line as opposed to the 45 that they had it at, that would have been a lot easier to prevent them from driving. And I thought that our defense, had its moments. One thing that I'll say is I'm very grateful that our defense was finally able to get some pressure on the quarterback. Now, this Oregon State team is struggling with injuries. They're not a healthy team at all. I'm very happy with this win overall still, regardless of the fact that Oregon State wasn't healthy. But I thought that the defense had its good moments, had its bad moments. If the defense plays like that next week, I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Boise State. But I did see a marked improvement from the defense after that Utah State game. And that's really what I was looking for in this game. I wanted to see steady improvement, incremental improvement, leading into the biggest game of the year. And I think that, when the Rebels went up 16, when Ricky caught that touchdown, again, the passing game, there were some issues today. When Ricky caught that touchdown, I think the guys just let their foot off the gas. And that's something that I've seen as I don't want to say it's a theme, but I don't think that the defense is always laser focused. And I'm not trying to say that they're lacking focus, but I think that they tend to let their foot off the gas a little bit when they're in good positions. And so a lot would have had to go right for Oregon State to win that game. Even if they get the touchdown, they still have to do the 2-point conversion. And so whatever referee stuff was going on at the end of that game, I thought UNLV clearly deserved to win. We were the victims of some bad officiating in that Syracuse game. Ultimately, I think both teams had their chances to win that game. And so Rebel fans have nothing to apologize for. If you see Oregon State fans talking about officiating, don't for a second take the bait. UNLV has nothing to apologize for tonight. College football, the officials sometimes make their decisions and it affects the game, but we move on. Just want to make sure nobody's commenting. A couple other takeaways from this game. I thought that the run game I was pretty impressed with. I thought that it was one of the better running performances that we've had this season. I'm not 100% sure what the final numbers were. But let's check. Let's see how the running game did today. But it felt like UNLV did a decent job of using the run game to their advantage, controlling clock, kind of bleeding out the game. UNLV was a really dumb Hodge Malik Williams interception away from walking away from Reser Stadium with a 16-point victory. So rushing, Hodge ran for 65 yards. I thought that he was very good in the option game. Jet Thomas had a 4.1 average yard per carry, 14 carries, 58 yards. Kylan James had a solid game, 9 carries, 46 yards. I don't know what happened to Greg Burrell. I'm wondering if he seriously. That's the thing. The snap should have never happened because I thought that Oregon State had a false start on the previous play, and so the game should have ended there. That's how I feel about it. Was there contact in the end zone? Yeah, there was, but I don't think the play should have even been snapped in the first place because the game should have been over. There was a false start on the previous play, and the officiating and the officials clearly didn't have control of the end of that game whatsoever. So nothing to apologize for there. I thought DeJesus had a pretty good game, but again, I kind of want to see DeJesus and Ballanguy, get a little bit more involved in the offense. Hodge is going to have a better game than he had tonight against Boise. Hodge was overthrowing receivers. He wasn't handling pressure well. Easily I think his worst game of the season. Now he's great. He can bounce back. He'll be okay. But Hodge wasn't great tonight. And I don't think that there's any denying that. Now, does it matter? it matters in a sense that we're preparing for Boise State next week, but it doesn't matter because we still won. So lots and lots and lots of positives tonight. Let's look at the defensive numbers. We had Cameron Oliver, who forced a. Was it Cameron Oliver? I believe Cameron Oliver forced a turnover on the defensive side of the ball. Go Rebels! Thank you. Very good stuff. So who forced that turnover? Because I wasn't sure who it was. Was it Catalan? I'm pretty sure it was Catalan who forced the turnover. But UNLV turned this game around by forcing a turnover. But this was a game where UNLV played a little bit more aggressively, which I thought was the right call on defense. Up until the very end, it was Catalan. Thank you. Up until the very end of the game, UNLV, was playing very aggressively on defense, and we kind of sacrificed a little bit of that spy coverage where we force a ton of turnovers and we get a ton of interceptions. That kind of wasn't as big a part of this game, although we had a couple of opportunities with interceptions that we easily could have walked away with that we didn't. But I really liked a more balanced defensive approach in this game. Boise State's quarterback, Maddox Madsen, is not a person that puts the ball in danger very often. Now, does that mean that Boise State is not going to is not going to make risky throws that we can intercept? No, it doesn't. But you're not going to be able to beat Boise State exclusively in the coverage that we had been running the previous weeks. You're going to have to mix in some tighter coverage. You're going to have to risk Ashton Jeanty just kind of exploding because Ashton Jeanty is going to get his anyway. So I thought tonight the coaching staff did a very good job of implementing some new looks, some new formations defensively, some tighter coverage. You can tell that the coaching staff was not okay with how UNLV played in the second half of that Utah State game, especially coming off of that Syracuse loss. And I'm very, very pleased with what the UNLV coaching staff did tonight. I think that the defensive adjustments were excellent. I think Barry coached maybe his best game of the year. I'm sure Barry would have wanted Hodge Malik Williams to throw away the ball at the end of that game and not put ourselves in that position. But overall, I mean, tonight was a prime example of how Barry Odom has changed UNLV football. One thing that the broadcast was talking about was that UNLV is like 7-2 in the Barry Odom era on the road. I don't know if Marcus Arroyo won a game on the road as our football coach. Tony Sanchez won 2 or 3 in his 5 years, but the change in this program to win this game, this is a game against a mediocre Oregon State team that a few years ago, we are getting blown out. It doesn't matter that Oregon State isn't at full strength. It doesn't matter that our team has more talent, maybe because of Oregon State's defensive issues. Thank you, Mom. Appreciate you. Love you. It doesn't matter that, in a few years ago with Marcus Arroyo, this is a game we lose. And so, even after, the Rebels would have found a way to go to overtime and lose this game in its 50-year history. And Barry Odom has just changed that. And so I think that, tonight there's a lot of things that the coaching staff can kind of tinker with and look over, whether it be Hodge not dealing with pressure very well, whether it be maybe some like that. I thought there was some mediocre tackling in this game too, a little bit. Tackles, Jackson Woodard probably had one of his, at least numbers wise, roughest games of the season. But Jonathan Baldwin, Jalen Catalan, Antonio Doyle Jr., these guys, 11, 10 tackles, 3 solo tackles, 6 solo tackles, 5 solo tackles. Just an incredible performance by our secondary. And so I could not be more pleased. It's Boise week now. It's hard to say that this was a look past game because obviously, the Rebels knew that this was going to be a tough game. Oregon State is a future Pac-12 team. We are not a future Pac-12 team. It's on the road. It was a good environment. Oregon State is a team that has a lot of pride. They just lost a really dumb game to Reno last week. Um, and so this was a big moment for Oregon State coming off of a brutal loss. And for UNLV to go up there, yeah, yeah, Woodard was kind of being a, it's true. I mean, yeah, so my family's in Europe, and so they got up at 4 a.m. to watch this game. That's how much the Kellys love the Rebels. That's for sure. Um, Nobody loves the Rebels like the Kellys. I mean, obviously, a lot of Rebel fans do, but we love these guys. We love this team. Um, so yeah, that's basically all that I had tonight. I'm gonna do probably my most in-depth preview of this Boise game this week. We're gonna have film. We're gonna do a live film review of this game, going over what the defense did differently, talking a little bit about Hodge. Um, I wonder if Master Rebel makes a really good point here. I wonder how they're going to use Woodard next week, because we're going to have to spy Genty. Like we're going to have a guy. Obviously, McCoy, Oregon State's quarterback, um, is a dual threat option, and so they wanted to make sure that there was somebody covering him to prevent big runs, and that really kind of shut down the QB run game. Again, that was a great adjustment by Barry Odom. I thought that was just fantastic. Um, so Jordan was at the game. So big shout out to Jordan. I was trying to pump up his posts. He was, and there were a good number of Rebel fans at this game. Uh, Jordan flew up to Oregon. He was at this game. So big shout out to Jordan. We appreciate Jordan. He's one of the best Rebel fans that we have in this community. So good job, Jordan, going into hostile territory and helping the guys come home with a big dub. Um, so yeah, lots to go over, lots to talk about. Hopefully we're gonna do a burner space tomorrow night. So everybody jump on tomorrow night. We're gonna do a burner space. I'll tweet out when it's gonna happen. We're gonna try and get the burners together. Um, I want to see if our vote count goes up in the AP poll. There could be some motivation for the AP poll to. I don't think we're going to be ranked because Oregon State is just not quite as good. Maybe if Oregon State had beaten Reno last week, we would have ended up ranked this week. But I would not expect the Rebels to be ranked in the morning. I fully expect them to still be unranked. But I'm sure that the number of votes that we're going to receive is going to go up. It's going to take beating Boise State to get ranked again. And yeah, I mean, now this game's over. It's time for the game for basically all the marbles. If the Rebels win this game, they have the inside track to host the Mountain West Championship game. If the Rebels lose this game, then they have to play perfectly, basically, for the rest of the year to make sure that they can get a rematch in the Mountain West Championship game with Boise State. If the Rebels lose this game, if the Rebels lose a game, honestly, their college football playoff hopes are definitively dashed. But the yeah, so Tiny Tim Parlay says a lot of teams that lost, they probably won't make it in, but a top 25 matchup next week could be insane. I'm not expecting the Rebels to be ranked next week. There could be. I know that Genty has some serious juice to win the Heisman, and I think that's pretty legitimate. If you guys want to see a good player, watch Ashton Genty, who the Rebels are going to have to go up against. Boise's coming off of a bye, which advantage them. Home field will be, it's going to be a home field advantage for UNLV, but there's going to be a ton of Boise fans. So so Hugh's asking about what happened with the false start before the final play. So what I saw, and this is just on the broadcast. So I think that Oregon State committed a false start penalty on their last play. The players didn't think that nobody seemed ready. It just seemed like the center, nobody moved besides the center. And so it seemed like Oregon State should have been called for a false start. I think the refs just missed that call. So Oregon State was able to, and if the false start would have been called, but yeah, and the clock should have been run. Like there was weird stuff going on with this last play, and I feel like the clock should have expired. UNLV on the last play with UNLV on the last play with Hankerson in the end zone probably was the beneficiary of a swallowed whistle. I don't think the refs wanted to have a whistle kind of decide the game. So, we've been on the wrong end of those kinds of whistles before. I think that, like, I think the game should have been over before that final play was ever called in the first place. But again, like I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what the officials were thinking. I don't think that they had a good control over the end of that game. So I think that the game should have ended. But hey, that's just me. If anybody has any thoughts, or maybe I doubt there's very many Oregon State fans listening to this because their proud program, the flagship of the new mighty Pac-12. Probably not a fun experience to see a team that is not in the Pac-12 come in and win on your home field. But to be fair, like I have a ton of respect for Oregon State. The Oregon State fans really wanted UNLV in the Pac-12. Digital Dam, I talked with him. He's one of the big Oregon State people online. So, respect to Oregon State. You guys are having a year from heck. No. So Hugh says we didn't get an explanation. We didn't get an explanation. They could only rule that the false start occurred before the whistle. Yeah, they would have had to have ruled that it had to have started before the whistle play. But yeah, that's the thing. And Keith brings this up. They got a free timeout for nothing. So I think that they were the beneficiaries of some weird officiating at the end of this game too. I don't really care. Like I'm sure the Oregon State fans do. I'm sure I have not had a chance to scroll through Twitter yet. I follow quite a few Oregon State people, so I'm sure they're upset about it. But I don't care. We won. So bye-bye. We're going to head home. We're going to prep for Boise. See you later. So, yeah, that is basically all that I had tonight. Burner podcast tomorrow night, Spaces, jump on. Any Rebel fan is able to speak and come on and speak their mind. Make sure that, I sound like I'm like trying to get people out to vote here. Create a plan to get to this Boise State game. Get your friends, get your family, invite people. Boise fans are going to be coming down in mass. There's an easy flight from Boise to Vegas. I lived in Boise. I know it. They're going to be coming down in mass. We want to make sure as many Rebel fans are there as possible. So that is the mission. Get your friends out. Get your family out. The Boise fans are going to be in mass, and we have to be in mass too. This is our home field. This is our advantage. This is our city. This is our game. Yeah, it's got to be 40K. 35K at the bare minimum. 35K at a minimum. We have a Heisman contender who is likely the favorite who is the favorite right now to win the Heisman, and Ashton Genty coming down. We got to get 40,000 people out of Legion. 35 at minimum, 40 should be the goal. This game is huge. This is for all the marbles. Win this game, stick it to Boise. That's the goal. And ascend into college football greatness. That is the goal this Saturday. Get your butts there. Get your family there. Get your friends there. Post it all over your social media. It is time to flood the earth with Barry Odom, Ricky White, Hodge Malik Williams, and get it done. Great job in Corvallis, guys. I'm going to sign out now. It is late. I have to get up for church tomorrow. But I appreciate you all. I appreciate the Rebels taking care of business. I appreciate the defense making some market improvements. And I hope you guys have an awesome, awesome night. Yes, a minimum is Sam Boyd. Get out. You guys have an awesome night. Spend lots of time with your family. Pray for the Rebels, if you're a praying folk. And you guys just have a great night. So appreciate you all. Let's run.